Today on the MrMaple Show podcast, Matt and Tim count down the top 25 conifers of 2024. Customer's choice.
Konnichiwa, y'all, and welcome to the top 25 conifers of 2024. It's kind of hard to say 25 of 2024, right? Next year we'll be saying the top 25 of 2025. That'll be a little bit more ring to it. The top 25 conifers of 2024 are here, guys. This is the collector's choice. These are the actual customer awards. These are what you bought the most of on Mr. Maple in 2024. These are the actual behind-the-scenes numbers. We're giving them away here. The conifers that sold the most in 2024.
Now, y'all, in 2024, we purchased during that time frame. We purchased Buckholtz Nursery. That was a full year of owning Buckholtz Nursery, and we were able to offer more conifers on Mr. Maple than ever before. And
number one.
We've got new number one. We got new numbers in our top 25 than we've ever had. It's pretty interesting when you look through this list. Conifers are that evergreen tree. Many of them are evergreen that give you a really nice splash in the garden. They pair well with your maples. And we will have some deciduous conifers on there here as well. There may be some metasequoias. I don't know if there's any taxodium or not, but there are some unique conifers here on Mr. Maple. And
pretty decent numbers on any of these. Even the number 25, there's, a hefty amount sold on these. So these were very popular this year. You bought a lot of conifers on Mr. Maple. Guys, we appreciate you too. If you like this kind of content, shop with us on Mr. Maple. I'm Matt, and that's my brother Tim, and we make it MrMaple.com. We'd appreciate it if you support podcasts by shopping with us on Mr. Maple. Now, these air on YouTube on the Mr. Maple Show, but you can also find them on your favorite podcast platform.
Now, guys, coming to number 25, we've got a Robert Fincham introduction, Picea abies Gold Drift. And this is a weeping Norway spruce that just gives you that Ryusen style with some really nice yellow color. Now, one thing I've noted about Gold Drift is you want to give it more sunlight. If you put it in more shade, it's not as yellow and doesn't grow as well. Giving it a little more sunlight gets that yellow to the needles and really allows Gold Drift to shine.
I was honestly shocked to see it all the way down at 25. This one's been in the top 5 before for us for the year. Weeping Norway spruce, going to work zones 2 through 8. Kind of one of the quintessential landscaping plants. I think probably in 2023 we filled up a lot of gardens with this one to be all the way down at 25. 10 to 12 foot in 10 years. I tend to stake it up. It was conifer of the year in 2013 as well, so a very popular plant. Now, this one just brings the colors. It's absolutely amazing. It's an easy plant to have in the landscape for so many good reasons. Architecturally, if you stake this one up, you're going to have a great-looking tree.
Now, coming number 24, we've got Abies Coriana Cohoots Icebreaker. This is a witch's broom that was found on Hortsman's Silverlock. Dense, compact form, recurved needles, so you see the silver to the backside of the needles. That gives it that sort of white color out there in the landscape you don't get on many conifers. For a dwarf Korean fir, it's a game changer.
Now, this is a dwarf Korean fir. These are going to work zones 4 through 8. Now, did we count firma and not firma is the question. Did you count firma and not firma?
They should be on the same list right now.
Because I think firma might have brought it up a little bit. But we do include that as a separate product if they're grafted on firma. Going forward, a lot of our firs are exclusively on firma. Absolutely great plant, though, guys. You know this one. Super popular. It doesn't love some of the high heat and humidity. That's why that firma plays a big role in that one. Conifer of the year in 2014. Really a showstopper, though. Looks amazing in a small conifer collection. Looks great around maples as well. Typically a 2x2 even in 15 years. So, tight, compact, dense habit.
Now, one of the things that you're going to make sure you want to have with Cohoots Icebreaker is good drainage. Often overwatering is a factor that can really kill some of these dwarf conifers. Good drainage essential. Also, if you can give it some airflow, really helps a lot with Icebreaker. Sometimes these can be offered on standards, in containers. Make sure they're pushed out where they can get good airflow. Amazing dwarf conifer for the garden.
All right, guys, coming in here at number 23, we've got Crypt Mar Japonica spiralis. Great plant as well. This is a Japanese cedar. I always like to let you know the zones when I can. This one's going to work zone 6 through 8. Really unique habit to this one. I like that twisting kind of corkscrew contortedness of this conifer. Really adds a unique texture to the garden. Typically 4 to 6 foot in 10 years. And it's going to kind of add that spiraling texture. So you get a real unique habit.
And cryptomerias are easy for many people to grow. They can actually handle a little more shade than many of the other conifers. Whenever I think about Cryptomeria japonica, I think of Cox Arboretum down in Georgia. Tom Cox had collected one of the best collections of Cryptomeria japonica in the southern United States. And it is a tree that's heat tolerant and it's more shade resistant than many of your other conifers. Spiralis with that unique texture to the leaf, add something out there in the landscape. And the dark green color really just gives you something that you can really appreciate, the texture, the color. Amazing tree for the garden.
Really impressed with the numbers this next one put up here. Number 22, we've got Pinus Sylvesters Mulera. That's a yellow Scots pine. Guys, showstopper. You know Mulera. We've often talked about how we wish we could rename this one Yellow Penguin because Green Penguin does sell pretty well. Spoiler alert, it's on the list too. This one's going to work zones 3 through 8B. Typically one of those winter yellows. Like it's a little more green in the summer, but it gets that yellow coming in the winter months. I love that. You know, we did a video last winter at Buckholtz Nursery, and the yellows are really the trees that were still in the show in February. They were the highlighters, even in the snow. Typically, this one's going to be 4 to 5 foot, 3 to 4 foot wide in a 10-year period. Been around for a while. It was named by Molser Nursery in France since the early 1900s. So this is one that's been around for a hot minute. Great plant, though. I mean, it's one that I'm shocked at the numbers it put up. Probably did comparable numbers to 2023. We just sold so many other conifers. So this one's probably a lot higher up on our previous list if I had to check that. That'd be my guess anyway. Just phenomenal plant, though.
I've actually seen some nurseries in Europe recently say that they just introduced a tree with their name in front of it and yellow penguin.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are listening here to the Mr. Maple Show whenever it comes to our opinions on some of these things. But
real tough to look. I like how the needles have that unique structure to them.
Yeah, you've got the elongated needles, but you also have the tight short needles as well. The two needles together just give a unique texture and give a really tufted appearance. The compact form and the yellow winter color is something that makes Mulera an amazing plant that is really showy and dynamic in the garden. You get an evergreen that changes color, and that is just very unique and special because this turns to a really pleasant shade of yellow during those winter months. I mean, some conifers turn yellow and you're like, uh-oh, but this turns to a yellow that is amazing and beautiful.
Dr. Creech was telling me that in Texas they don't like yellow plants because everything that turns yellow is dying from drought.
Chlorotic, drying.
Okay, coming here at number 21, we've got a tough plant. This is our first metasequoia on the list. Metasequoia glyptosomboides, so a dawn redwood, and we've got urban spire. This one's going to work zones 4 through 8 and is a very narrow dawn redwood.
Yeah, and this one just really has a really narrow form for the landscape, making it easy to use. Dawn redwoods, the Metasequoia glyptosomboides, are one of those plants that people for years, until like the 1940s, thought that they were extinct. They found them in one valley in China, and then almost all of the dawn redwoods in existence came from that one collection. And it is an amazing narrow form of a dawn redwood. It's a deciduous evergreen, so it does drop its needles in the late fall. And so it drops its needles, but when it drops its needles, you can actually see the redwood that makes dawn redwoods famous during those winter months.
Yeah, so don't be freaking out in October when they start turning orange. Oh no, my conifer's dying. No, that's normal. What makes this one special is a 15-foot tall tree is only about 5 foot wide. So it's got a more narrow footprint there in the landscape. And it gets there pretty quick. I mean, that's just a 10-year kind of time span. So it gets out there pretty quickly. Drought resistant, heat tolerant, cold tolerant, the water resistance, they can handle the water as well. Dawn redwoods, so many great uses. Surprised to see this. I think the first time we've ever offered this one was in 2024. I was really surprised by the number of units it moved to get all the way up to 21. That's pretty impressive.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said this is a conifer that is water resistant. What that means is this is a conifer that can handle wet feet situations, that stays more damp in the yard, so you can put an ornamental tree in those spots of the yard where you can't grow many other ornamental trees that would need good drainage. So an awesome use of an upright, narrow dawn redwood.
All right, guys, coming here at number 20, we got Picea pungens blue pearl. This is a miniature Colorado blue spruce. Going to work zones 3 through 7 for you guys. I know I like to tell you on the conifers because they change a good bit more than our maple list. Blue Pearl's great. Again, it was another one that was honored by the American Conifer Society, I believe in 2019. Nice blue color in the landscape. Easy way to add that blue appeal going on in the garden.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard us say that there's no blue Japanese maples because there's not really any blue Japanese maples, no matter what eBay seeds or Amazon seeds.
It's slowed down a lot. There's still those scammers out there for the blue maples, but man, has it slowed down a lot. I think our YouTube video's got about 15,000 views on it now too. So hopefully that's 15,000 people that didn't get scammed by the blue maple.
But you can't get blue out of a Japanese maple, but you can get it out of a conifer. And with Blue Pearl, you can get it in a small, compact, rounded ball shape to really add something to pair out there in your landscape with your Japanese maples. I mean, you pair this with a yellow or a red Japanese maple or a green, and you get some dynamic color contrast playing against each other. It fits in small spaces. Again, being a dwarf conifer, make sure you give it plenty of good drainage. The number one killer of a lot of dwarf conifers is poor drainage.
Blue Pearl really brings it. I think before it was probably much higher on our list. Again, looking at the units sold on this one, pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys just didn't buy more conifers. I'd have to look back at that 2023 list. This was a witch's broom found on Fat Albert. Really cool plant. I think you guys will love it. And it kind of incorporates what a lot of people are looking for, a small, compact blue to really show out in the landscape.
Guys, next up, we've got a Cedrus Atlantica that was found as a chance seedling by Bill Jansen at Collector's Nursery. That means you collectors are going to love it. It's Cedrus Atlantica Sahara Ice.
This is one of my favorites, and gosh, if I had more units, I bet it would be higher. You guys bought a lot of these. A lot of these in 2024. Everybody loves this variegation. I mean, there's a list of people waiting on this one. Whenever it comes back in stock, it tends to sell out quickly. So short amount of time on the website for how quickly it does sell out. I do love this one. Going to work zones 5 through 9, typically 7 to 8 foot in height by 3 foot in width, 3 to 4 foot in width. Structurally, one of the most interesting plants, but really it's that frosted color. It's that ice that really captures the interest. You've got that greener, older growth, that pale white to almost yellow. That new growth is just really interesting, especially in the winter months. This one just makes a spectacle in the garden.
And this is basically the Ukigumo of Cedrus Atlanticas.
Oh,
I mean, you get just this white color out there in the landscape that you don't get on many of the Cedrus Atlanticas. For me, it is an amazing tree. It can get out there once it gets established. After those first 10 years, it's a pretty slow grower. But after then, it can sort of get to about 2 feet of growth per year to 2.5 feet of growth in a year. It makes a nice sized specimen with that white color in the landscape, which you can't get out of many other trees. And when it's not that pure white, it's kind of a bluish green. An amazing selection that is really popular for us. And again, I think it would be higher on this list if we had more numbers to really shoot with it.
I know this next one was higher on the list last time, so a lot of new ones at the top. Thya occidentalis to Groot Spire. And this is a columnar arborvitae, going to work zones 4 through 8. You know, what's special about this one is, even an 8 to 10 foot tall tree is only about a foot, maybe a foot and a half wide. So it's got that narrow columnar footprint. Absolutely love this one for skinny spaces where you want a tall tree. You want that vertical interest, but you don't want a lot of width. The Groot Spire fits that, and it gives you an evergreen interest.
It's also slow growing as well, so it fits in a lot of people's gardens. I remember when Kelly McCartney had small plants and pendulusplants.com, and we purchased her nursery, and that's really when I was introduced to the Groot Spire. We got the one that's on the bank here at MrMaple during that time and really started producing it. And to me, it's a tree that I fell in love with because not only did it have that narrow shape and it stayed really tight and dense, but it was such a slow grower. It fit in the small garden. I mean,
Kelly's awesome too. You'll see her at a lot of open houses. So sometimes we need to get her in the top 5 at some point. Kelly's awesome.
We often forget about purchasing that nursery though, but that's really one of the places.
Yeah, we purchased the nursery, but we really purchased all of her stock that she had available.
So we've got Highland Creek Nursery, we got Pendulous Plants, and Buckholtz Nursery. So crazy the acquisitions we've made throughout the years, and a few others we passed on.
That's some interesting ones we passed on. There's a few I wish we would have got. There's at least 2 other, really prominent ones that were close to happening. Maybe that's a story for another day.
Y'all, coming up next, we've got Picea abies Goldfinch. This is basically everything you like about Gold Drift, but in a smaller, compact form. It's a selection by Robert Fincham. It's one of the only selections that essentially carries his namesake because Goldfinch is a play with Robert Fincham or Bob Fincham. Dense, compact form that was a hybrid that he created with Gold Drift, with Picea acrocona, and it has purple cones to it and that dense, compact form, but that good yellow color.
I love it. I'm a WCU grad. You got the yellow and purple going on. Really a fun one. This one's going to, it's a rare dwarf Norway spruce. It's going to work zones 4 through 8. Definitely go check out our podcast we did with Bob Finch, and we'll have him on again. Just a fun time. We talked to him about conifers, his books, all kinds of fun stuff. We talked a good bit about Goldfinch, though, because we love this plant. We know it's high on our list. Again, if we had more of these, probably would be even higher up on the list. It does sell out pretty quickly. Typically 2 foot tall, but about 3 foot wide in a 10-year span. So many great uses for this. Pairs great with stuff like that blue pearl we were talking about earlier. So it has a lot of great landscape uses as well. I think you guys are going to love this one. If you're not familiar with it, check it out on MrMaple.com. If any of these are currently sold out and your heart's desire is to get a Goldfinch, you can always sign up to get notified on MrMaple.com under the cultivar page, and we'll email you when that's back at stock. I always do remind people our 10 at 10 notifications are the first reminder.
So guys, coming at number 16, we've got Pinus nigra Oregon green. And this is an architecturally interesting pine out there in the landscape, dark green color, but it just gives this very stoic, upright structure that is very appealing in the landscape. I know a few years ago when my wife and I were shopping for houses, we'd be driving around neighborhoods looking, and I would spot an Oregon green in the garden, and I would say, honey, we need to take another look at this house here. It's got a beautiful pine in the front yard. It's because Oregon green is just so amazing out there. It just makes a statement all by itself. And being a black pine, it's easy to grow.
Yeah, this is an Austrian black pine. They're going to work zones 4 through 8, typically 10 foot in 10 years. So it does get out there as well, which is nice because it fills out quickly. It has a really cathedral-like look. I like how it has that tuft kind of demeanor to it. It's a really beautiful plant, especially even at an early age. I've noted that the needles can be really pretty. We've got some great photos on our website of the needles on these. I actually absolutely love the darker evergreen color this one can reach. Kind of gets to one of those quintessential dark colors. It's easy to shape too. Like, you don't have to be an expert candler to kind of make a great shape out of Oregon green. It's naturally going to have a nice upright appearance to it. And I think that's part of its popularity too, is it's an easy plant to change around, but also it's easy to get something that looks nice. You don't have to be an expert to have a great looking structure.
All right, guys, next up we've got a balsam fir coming in at number 15. We've got Absbalamia Piccolo. Now, Piccolo is a compact, dense, slow-growing fir that is just fits in those small spaces.
So this one's typically going to work zones 3 through 8. Great compact habit to it. I mean, that's really why people love this one. It's got really interesting candles to it as well, but typically just a foot, maybe a foot and a half to 2 foot by 2 foot in width in 10 years. So structurally, it's a nice compact density. We were growing this one at Buckholz, and some of those on the ground are just showstoppers. I know there's some specimens at Missy Galloway's garden, which we recently did a walkthrough there. You definitely got to go check out that walkthrough. I think you'd call it like a mountaintop heaven or something. I don't even know what we call it, but go watch that conifer garden at Missy and Wayne Galloway's. That's, if you love conifers, if you're watching this, that's a must see.
So guys, coming in at number 14, we've got Picea pungens the Blues, which is a Picea pungens. So it's a Colorado weeping blue spruce that has the shape of gold drift. We recently did a podcast with Robert Fincham, and he talks about pairing these two together, even twisting them together so you have blue and yellow coming off of essentially looking like the same plant with a similar weeping habit. It's part of his artsy fartsy book he was talking about. I couldn't help but laugh when Matt said, we know the artsy conifers, but which ones are the fartsy?
I don't know if that made it to the podcast. We'll see. You'll have to watch it to find out, guys. These are good down to zone 3. Introduction by Larry Stanley, same gentleman who found, snow kittens. So kind of a cool lineage there. Larry, super influential in the conifer world over the years. Typically 5 to 6 foot tall in a 10-year period. Now, you do stake this one, so you can play with the shape a good bit. In some areas, you can get this one to kind of mimic that gold drift. He was kind of intertwining the gold drifts there together with the blues to create those artsy fartsy masterpieces. Kind of a fun one though. I really like the shape of this one. Gets about as big as you stake it, and you really get some of those just next level blue colors. So you can kind of play with that blue. I've got one, not intertwined with my gold drift, but I have it planted on the bank here at the nursery next to the gold drift to kind of pair those colors together and those textures. So they look so nice next to each other.
Coming in at number 13, we have Thya Orientalis. Yes, I'm trying to say it correctly, Thya instead of Thuja, but it's still very weird to me. Thya Orientalis Van Huey Smith. This is a variegated arborvitae that is very just striking. I mean,
everybody sees this when they snatch them up, even the employees here at the nursery.
You get that yellow variegation on the green, which contrasts well against itself. This is a screening plant, but it's a variegated screening plant. And once it's established, it will take off. Make sure you give it plenty of good drainage. But it really is a really nice variegated form you don't find commonly used in the trade.
Yeah, we use it as a screening plant here at the nursery between us and several neighbors, just as a variegation, just overload too. I love that it's a dark green variegation with yellow newish growth, so you get that kind of really contrasting color. Looks really nice on a one even. I mean, it's showy. It's presentable right away, and I think it's something no matter what size you have it really just captures the interest. I love putting purples like wave leaf and just different of the extravagant reticulated forms around this. I mean, you put any of the Amagi Shiguri, purple ghost near this thing, it's just going to really glow. Typically 10 to 12 foot in 10 years, so it does get out there nice. It's been one that's been really durable in those kind of humid zones as well. So it's got a variegation that doesn't burn a lot, and it works great even in the south. People have listed this one up to zone 9, but I've seen some people really pushing it with this one.
Guys, coming in next at number 12, we've got Crypt Mar Japonica Golden Promise. This is everything you love about a Japanese cedar, but in a compact form with yellow new growth. So this is a yellow, compact, dense dwarf Japanese cedar. That means it can handle a little more shade, but the sunlight is really what peaks up this yellow color on Golden Promise. So make sure you give it plenty of sunlight to get that yellow color. I mean, found by Don Hatch Nursery in the UK, this tree is becoming more and more popular as people realize it really is a dwarf and it really is yellow.
Golden Promise, though, great globular shape to it. Just an all-around winner. Looks great in a small container garden. Looks great in the ground. I like the next level, kind of like light yellows you can get out of this. The older growth can be a little darker. I've had 1 gallons of this that just absolutely glow in the spring. I mean, it is beautiful. It looks great in any conifer garden or maple garden, but it's one of those ones you can get almost like a translucent look to.
Now, this is a new one for me coming in. I mean, normally we don't have our Camocyprus obtusas come this high on the list. At number 11, we've got Camocyprus obtusa vocals upright. This is a slow-growing Japanese Hinoki cypress that gets about 4 feet in height by 1 foot in width in 10 years. So it's easy to use in the garden. It gives you that Hinoki cypress that everybody thinks about with traditional Japanese gardening, but in a narrow form. And dwarf. So this is something that's very unique and different for a Camocyprus obtusa. We're going to be offering more selections of Camocyprus obtusa on MrMaple now since we've got Buckholtz Nursery. But it's rare to see a Camocyprus obtusa with such a traditional Hinoki cypress leaf this high on the list, but the narrow form is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that makes this one so popular is 4 foot by about a foot, maybe a foot and a half, even in 10 years. Going to work zones 4 through 8, so it's got a lot of practical uses there. Really just makes that little column there in the landscape. It's a dwarf Hinoki cypress that's skinny. So I mean, it's got narrow habit. As we're getting smaller and smaller landscapes, makes sense this one's climbing. But again, really interesting as we round into our top 10 conifers of 2024. If you haven't already and you're listening to our podcast, go give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. That's a little insider plug for the business that supports our business, MrMaple.com.
Coming at number 10, we're all the way to the number 10. We've got a selection by Pat McCracken, Cedrus Atlantica Sapphire Nymph. This is a dwarf blue Atlas cedar, small compact habit, extremely slow growing. Again, being a dwarf conifer, and especially being an Atlas cedar, make sure you give it plenty of good drainage. Planting on a hill slightly raised up, or even just bringing dirt to an area to raise it up is a great way to add drainage to this conifer.
This one does not want to have wet feet for sure. Zones 5 through 9, typically 3 to 4 feet tall, 3 to 4 feet wide in 10 years, making it a nice structural, compact, dense habit to it. Beautiful colors too. I mean, I love the colors on Sapphire Nymph. Again, another one that kind of has a glow to it. You get that aqua blue, that weird blue hue going on. Just looks amazing, especially when you put this next to a Crimson Queen, Scarlet Princess. Doesn't have to be anything super outside the box, but Sapphire Nymph next to a lace leaf looks amazing.
Coming in at number 9, we've got Pinus Thunderhead. And to me, when I think about this, I think about Bojangles restaurant in our area. And that's because
I made that joke last week. Then you got to steal it. Look at that. That's what little brothers will do to you. I made the Bojangles joke once, and now I'll listen to the videos I'm not in with Tim. He takes every one of my jokes. But see, I'm going to call him out in person. Material. These work zones 5 through 10, and they're tough enough for bow time.
In our area, we have a fast food restaurant called Bojangles. Some people have said
known for their classy colors of neon yellow and neon red.
So some people have said that it's kind of like a Popeye's chicken kind of thing, if you're familiar with that as well. It's here only in the south of our area. It's starting to move around a little bit.
I don't think they're at all Bojangles, but there's a really nice one with the Bojangles in Henderson.
A lot of our Bojangles in our area, someone who had the landscaping contract planted a lot of Thunderheads around in our area.
So make sure when you think of Thunderhead to think of tacky fried chicken.
And Bowberry biscuits.
And gravy.
Thunderhead is a Japanese black pine, which are easy to grow. They're salt tolerant. They're heat tolerant. They're more shade resistant than many other conifers, especially pines. So they're easy for people to grow. They can handle high heat settings. And Thunderhead gives you a tight, compact form with that. I have seen variations on how big people think Thunderhead will actually get. In the south, they're a little tighter, denser, compact forms. Up north, in the northeast especially, they can get out there and get up and make a larger tree quicker. A lot of people have experience with that in the Pacific North, not the Pacific, but the Atlantic Northeast. An amazing compact Japanese black pine, easy to grow, gives you good evergreen interest. Those Japanese black pines are some of my favorite, and Thunderhead coming in at number 9.
Tough, durable. I mean, Thunderhead's going to work zones 5 through zone 10. And you know this one. The Japanese black pines are popular for bonsai because you can just beat them up and they tend to like it.
That's a weird thing to say.
It is, isn't it?
Coming in at number 8, we've got Cedars Atlantica glauca Pendula. This is the weeping blue atlas cedar that is so famous that everybody wants. You often see this in a serpentine shape. You'll see this just allowed to just sort of crawl out and creep and make this huge, amazing specimen. There's a beautiful one of these at Kubota Gardens that is just out of this world. You have to go check out our walkthrough of Kubota Gardens in Seattle to see that specimen. But to me, this is a next level conifer that gives you good blue color. Make sure you give it plenty of good drainage, but it gets out there and it's got that nice weeping habit.
These work zones 5 through 9, so they're going to work well with Japanese maples. Good drainage, again, being the key. You know, Cedars Atlantica, drought resistant, heat resistant, very great plants for durability. They work great in the south. They work great in the Pacific Northwest. They work great pretty much everywhere. I love this plant, though, for its malleability. I've seen it grown over trellises. I've seen it grown over entranceways to gardens. And I was once talking to some of the younger guys here at the nursery, and I was telling them that Talon once sold one of these for around $40,000. And, they were blown away. Now, it went on a tractor trailer on its own.
Refrigerated truck.
Right. So these guys were like, wow, oh my gosh. And the point to them was they were like, wow, I'm going to buy every one you have, and I'm going to grow them for the next 50 years. A lot of our maples are worth that much. A lot of our conifers are worth that much after 50 years, 40, 50 years. So, yeah, it's a get-rich-slow plan. But there is some value in some massive ones of these. I know specifically some that went to some amazing gardens in Virginia from Talon Buckholtz that were just next-level plants.
I've heard of a lot of people offering a lot of money from private gardens for large specimens of Cedars Atlantica glauca Pendula. It's because they make a statement as they get older. They just get more beautiful with age. Think about another walkthrough we've got with this is the Oregon Gardens. We've got some beautiful Cedars Atlantica glauca Pendulas in that walkthrough as well. Y'all, to me, it is one of those conifers that is just amazing. The blue color on it is unlike any of the other blue color with that weeping habit. It's like a blue silver that you get with glauca Pendula. Amazing conifer. Coming in next at number 7, we've got Pinus Mugo Carstons, also known as Pinus Mugo Carston's Winter Gold. This is a dwarf mountain pine that has that yellow color that becomes more intense with its yellow color during those winter months.
Now, this one can be green in the summer months for sure, but that winter months, it really lights up with just spectacular colors. It's definitely one of those ones that steals the show. Typically around 3x3 in a 10-year period. There's some real specimens of this at Buckholtz Garden. I mean, I absolutely love the way it displays, and it's a great pairing with any of the blue Japanese maples. That's why Talon has it there in the blue forest.
And if you want to see these specific specimens, you can go to our YouTube channel, the MrMaple Show on YouTube, and look at the video Exploring Yellow Conifers in the Buckholtz Garden. And you can see us go through and talk about many of the yellow conifers, including the Pinus, Mugo, Carstons.
Little shocked to see this next one so high. Guys, we are all the way up here at number 6, Picea pungens globosa, dwarf Colorado blue spruce. Going to work zones 3 through 7. Phenomenal dwarf compact blue spruce. And yeah, just shocked to see this one really get so popular.
I mean, this is what people think of a dwarf Colorado blue spruce, one of the best blue colors and good rounded shapes. Its globosa name tells you its rounded habit. Its blue color, sometimes called glauca, globosa. You know, I wish we didn't have all these Latin names on conifers, but we have them, and that's what we're stuck with. And this makes a beautiful tree in anyone's landscape and garden.
Typically 3 to 4 feet tall, 3 to 4 feet wide in a 10-year span. Real nice density to it, great coloration to it. Easy to see why this one is super popular, and just some phenomenal blues. I mean, this is one of the most glowing blues you can get there in the landscape.
Coming at number 5, we're all the way down to the top 5 conifers of 2024, from 25 to number 5. Y'all, this is one that has been offered almost exclusively on MrMaple.com. This is Pinus strobus Biltmore Blue. This is a dwarf white pine, so it's a native white pine that was found as a witch's broom on the Biltmore estate. There was actually a marksman who came out and shot it out with a shotgun, and then that witch's broom was then grafted to get this tree into the nursery trade. It's a tree that almost got lost into the trade because when it was then grafted, it was only sold through the garden center at the Biltmore estate. And then one of our friends purchased one of those trees, and we got it back in production. It is a compact blue white pine, so it gives that blue color with that tight, dense, compact form.
Yeah, this one's going to work zones 3 through 8, typically 4x4 ball in a 10-year period, making it a nice, compact, dense to it. I love the colors on this one. Now, make sure you spell Biltmore right. I once sent a link to the Maple Society when we were traveling to the Biltmore house. If you spell it wrong, it's a women's bodybuilding website. It was quite the shocker when I clicked on that. There was some very large, muscular women instead of the Biltmore house. Quite surprising, but yeah, make sure to spell Biltmore, B-I-L-T more.
All right, guys, coming in number 4, we've got another blue white pine, but this is a blue Japanese white pine. This is Pinus parviflora glauca. Glauca is one of those reoccurring terms we see in Latin that mean blue, and we see a lot of conifers that have that name on it. This is one of the bluest of those Japanese white pines with a nice upright habit.
So these are going to work zones 5 through 7, typically around 10 foot in 10 years, making a great structure to it. But really what it's popular for is a white pine that provides a lot of interesting blue.
Now, those needles on the Japanese white pines are a little bit shorter. They give some really good blue color. They add to the garden the texture, the architecture that people think of in traditional Japanese gardening. So they're great to pair with your Japanese maples. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why this Pinus parviflora glauca is so high on our list, coming here at number 4.
A lot of blue. If you like blue, it's great to have conifers in the garden to provide that. Guys, here is one of my favorites here at number 3. Shocked to see it back at the top. Took a little time off. Now it's back where it belongs at number 3. Could see it even growing up a little further. I love this plant. We got Shermans Nordli, sometimes referred to as Northlight, Metasequoia glyptosymboides, Northlight.
Now, Shermans Nordli was found as a witch's broom on the cultivar white spot. White spot is this upright, creamy dawn redwood, and a Sherman was one of our friend's customers who found the tight, dense witch's broom. And when he grafted it, came this dwarf compact form of Shermans Nordli. It gives you the creamy colors that you love on white spot, but a smaller form that is easy for many people to use in the garden. And again, this is a dawn redwood, so it can handle those wetter places in the garden. It's drought resistant. It's variegated and a witch's broom, which is quite unique.
Yeah, don't forget this one's deciduous, so they are going to drop leaf. Going to work zones 4 through 8. Just love this plant. I've seen some bigger ones, especially if you're pruning on it heavy, it will promote growth. So you'll actually get there a little quicker if you're trimming on a lot. Typically 4 to 6 foot in 10 years. So it does get out there, but it's not a giant. So if you're trimming on this one, it will increase the growth rate. This was the winner of the Conifer Society Plant of the Year, one of the conifers of the year in 2015. Absolutely love it. Again, the dawn redwoods are great for drought resistance, but they can also handle the a little bit wetter spots in the garden. It is a deciduous conifer that brings the interest. It really shows out well with Japanese maples because of that color contrast. You get the Northlight colors. You kind of get a weird blue-green going on. Absolutely love it.
Coming in at number 2, we've got another Cyprus Obtusa. This one a little bit different texture on the leaves because this one is very unique. This is Camocypress obtusa chairman. It has very cathedral type structure to it. Architecture almost like a cactus or something out there.
Didn't surprise to see me this one all the way up at 2. I think some other things stole its spot before. Typically consistently sells out at Mr. Maple. And it's one we have on the website a lot, but people love this one.
Yeah, I mean, it was the 2011 American Conifer Society Conifer of the Year, won that award. And it can give you some good blue color with a little bit of shade. And especially as a young age, blue, silver, green kind of color, it gets more of a blue green as it ages. It is very interesting architecturally, slow growing, fits in a lot of spaces, typically reaching 2 to 3 feet in height in 10 years. But those cathedrals where it puts off just this really unique, short needled Camocypress obtusa.
Makes its own fairy garden. It makes its own unique structure to it. I mean, it kind of looks like the Fortress of Solitude a little bit. It's got all these spikes headed up. I love it. It looks like its own little landscape.
They use this at the North Carolina Arboretum in the miniature railroad garden. Just like you're talking about it makes that statement in that small space. And if you're looking for that in a small garden, it's an amazing tree to add that blue color.
These are going to work zone 4 through 8. I mean, I've seen people growing this in Austin with success, so it's an interesting plant. It certainly can push zones a little bit. Hinoki cypress are known for their durability, so I think that 8 might not even be a cap for that one. I've seen it in some hotter places. Really a fun plant, though. Durable, interesting color for it. Looks great in small landscapes. So this looks great in a conifer garden. If you're a maple collector listening to the show, it's a great pairing with almost any Japanese maple because of that darker color, but also that light kind of variegation that it displays in it. Looks amazing.
Now we're down to number 1. If you're watching this on YouTube, put in the comments what you think our number 1 conifer of 2024. These are the Consumer Choice Awards, what you purchased in 2024 by the numbers. Y'all, coming in at number 1, we have the only green conifer in the top 8.
It's like the Macawa. It's like, hey guys, I'm the boring dwarf compact tree that you can't forget about. That's not boring at all. But it's like you would take this one, you go, no way is that number 1. Guys, it's green penguin. It's like the Macawa of the Scots Pines, Macawa, if you will. Going to work zones 3 through 8B. We love this one. It's perfectly named. It makes a penguin in the landscape. Anytime a tree has a perfect name, it's going to be a top seller. But this one has the structure to back it up. Not only is it a great name, that structure to it of being a compact, 3 to 4 foot kind of habit to it, 3 to 4 foot width, kind of makes a perfect little penguin there in the landscape, makes a perfect miniature Christmas tree. That tough density to it just makes it one of the best conifers we can offer. And you guys buy a lot of them. I mean, I would say this one is the Makawi Etsubusa of conifers at Mr. Maple.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those conifers that when you see it, you fall in love with it. I know Matt and I, when we first saw it, it became one of our goals to really offer this conifer in numbers because we realized how easy it was to use, how durable it was going to be being a Pinus sylvestris.
We had a penguin parade. That's what we called it. We had the penguin parade when the penguins arrive.
Make sure that you give it plenty of good drainage because it is a dwarf conifer as well. But it fits in small spaces. It fits in the Makawa garden, and it's an evergreen. It's really beautiful, easy to grow. Again, this is one of those dwarf Pinus sylvestrises that have both the short needles and the long needles, creating that tufted appearance, but with that perfect green penguin shape. This is a very unique tree in the garden. The kids are going to love it because you call it a green penguin. They look at it. It looks like a penguin. You could probably go out there and add a nose to it in the garden, and people would really think it looks more like a penguin. But it is an amazingly perfectly shaped tree that's easy to use.
Yeah, this was found by Jim Lewis, and when they were growing this one, they even trialed it in Duluth, Minnesota. So it's one that they've seen in Duluth, Minnesota, which is a colder zone than you'll see most Scots pines in. Absolutely love it. Durable, compact. Again, a perfect little Christmas tree. So if you want the plant, you can put in the container and decorate, or you just want to go out and decorate one in the landscape. It makes a perfect little compact, dense Christmas tree. Absolutely love green penguin. I'm not surprised to see it at the top. Again, it's a perfect name, but the structure backs up that name. It's not just a good name plant. It's actually a great plant.
Now, these are our top 25 conifers of 2024. We excluded ginkgo. Sometimes people often include ginkgos with conifers.
We made a whole list just for ginkgos.
We made a whole list just for ginkgos. So if you're interested in our top 25 list of ginkgos, go check that one out.
We didn't leave them out. We love them so much, they got their own list.
Exactly. They're a gymnosperm, but very much like a pine tree. Y'all, top 25 conifers of 2024. Let us know what you think in the comments on YouTube. There's a whole component with video component on our YouTube channel of these conifers with photos. And if you're watching our YouTube channel, also find us on your favorite podcast platform. We try to put them on both really to make the most out of each and every one of our podcasts.
Yeah, guys, also go to the Mr. Maple Friends group on Facebook. Let us know what conifers you'd like to see in 2025. Buying Buckholtz Nurseries allowed us to expand our conifer collection. We're going to be offering a ton more rare, unique conifers. We're tooling up to do some amazing stuff. They're grafted conifers right now this winter. But if there's something you'd like to see, let us know in that chat. We'd like to get a little thread going on after this podcast on Mr. Maple Friends. Go let us know what conifers you'd like to see available in 2025.
From our 2024 list to our 2023 list, there's some noticeable things that I've missed. I don't see any Chamaecyparis nucatensis on this list. There's just some things like AB's Golden Spreader, which were on previous lists that didn't make it on this year's list.
A lot of those things still put up pretty significant numbers, which is surprising. I think some of the top things just reclaimed their spot. I think a lot of people found us for conifers. We were in the New York Times in 2024. We had a lot of great publicity. A lot of these trees, kind of rose to the top again. Interestingly enough, we had more conifers available last year because of the Buckholtz Nursery purchase. So a bigger sample size of some of these. I immediately noticed that some things on this list that were very hot before, like even gold drift. Always a popular plant for us, may have been higher up on the list, but sold a similar amount of plants. So some other things just kind of jumped in front of it.
Well, thank y'all for jumping in today's podcast of our top 25 conifers of 2024. Remember to shop on MrMaple.com. That's a way you can support this podcast, whether it's on the podcast or on YouTube. We really appreciate it.
Take care.
God bless.
Have a great day.